Hey everyone, Curse Deck Builder here, making our way to 10,000 decks assisted, and here we are with another mono black deck. This is the Speed Demon Bad Decisions, as in bad decisions that our opponents have to make. This is a deck coming from Sukiyaki. Thank you so much, Sukiyaki, for sending this deck. And they say that they themed this deck around demons and bad choices that your opponents have to make. And the Speed Demon there is kind of like a fun commander. They're not really sure and are open for like suggestions for a different commander. But the main problem I think they're having is that they say they're between multiple sub-themes: discard, recursion, life gain, burn, and they want it to be kind of narrowed down a little more, and I do totally get that. They're open to all sorts of recommendations, even commander switch-ups, and they wouldn't mind some game-winning cards because it feels right now that the deck isn't able to get there. And there's a lot of things that we can do. This deck itself is a lot of fun. I really like what it's like trying to do and how it's getting there. This is definitely a lower power deck, but that doesn't mean it's not a lot of fun. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot that we can do here to make it work. And I'm excited to see the kind of things that we can do. And even though that the Speed Demon is not necessarily here, you know, for as a big part of the commander deck, we're still going to take a look at them and see why they're at the head of our commander deck. If you'd like to take a look at the deck list we're talking about today, or if you'd like to submit your own deck list to me so that I can make a video assisting your deck, please check the video description down below. So who is the Speed Demon, and why are they our Demon Bad Choices commander? The Speed Demon is a really cool commander. They are one I was actually thinking of making for a while, but never sat down and did it. They are a 5/5 for 5 legendary demon. They have one real ability. They're a flying trample, flample as some say, big demon, and when they enter into the game, they start your engines, so you start accumulating speed. As a reminder, the way speed works is that every time you end your turn when an opponent has lost life, oh sorry, it's not even when you end turn. When the first time during your turn when your opponent loses a life, you go up 1 speed, maximum 4. So in theory, usually the way it works is when you start your engines and start at 1, by the end of that turn, you want to have triggered it at least once, going to 2, which means on the subsequent 2 turns, you're hoping to go to 3 and 4, with the goal being at max speed at 4. Now, what the Speed Demon does is at the beginning of your end step, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is your speed. This is kind of that classic, you know, black idea of giving life to draw cards, and though this increases tremendously as the game goes by, I should say, I love it. I love the concept of spending 4 life to draw 4 cards. Generally these days, it really feels like we're paying more than that per card. So 1 life for 1 card, I think that's Yogg's Bargain, is the classic sense, is just incredibly powerful. And having a giant creature is not a bad thing either. Now, looking at the deck itself, there is a bit of inconsistency in some of the cards here and there. I don't think this is a bad thing. The deck is definitely trying to figure out its themes and what to do. And what I'm going to say is generally, the cards I'm going to pick on the most are the ones that feel furthest from the theme, or I feel like aren't helping the deck as much as I'd like them to, right? In demon decks, much like any other like high-powered Kindred deck, so I'm thinking angels, hydras, dragons, this kind of stuff, it becomes really kind of difficult to summon a lot of these creatures because a lot of your best demons are on the top end of your curve, and that can be tough. So usually we have a bunch of cards lower on the curve to make up for that fact. Speaking of the curve, we can see that we are at 39 lands, which I think is really good, and our curve is a little tough. 3 and 5 are not ideal places for this deck. They are demanding a lot from the deck, and I don't remember exactly the mana cost of all of my additions, but hopefully I am not making this problem worse. However, this is the zone I do want to attack the deck a little bit, because I do think this is the pressure of the deck. Like, we need to release that valve and make it work a little better. So with that in mind, looking at cards that I think generally don't belong here is I'm looking at, let's start with some of the creatures, some of the 3 mana cards, and let's start with the concept of the life gain, which I think Nighthawk Scavenger will be our poster child for. Life gain is a very interesting mechanic in Magic. That's where we're starting. Life gain is meant to prolong the game or pay back a life lost to stay at a comfortable buffer. Generally, the idea is 99% of your life is to be spent, but that last point of life that keeps you in the game is the only one that matters. This is doubly so when you're playing black, because your life is a resource to be paid to get things out of it. Now, when we play lifelink in Commander, there's only 2 ways that I like doing it. One, and this is the primary one, which is I want it to trigger things. That means creatures, usually in black and white, sometimes green, that say whenever you gain life, X happens. This deck is not built around that, so we can just throw that aside. The second way I like gaining life is if we are gaining unbelievable amounts of life. And to me, that's usually starting at 100 or more. Anything less than 100, I think, is pretty meaningless because a few attacks between your opponents and you're going to lose all of that. So I'm thinking of like my white-black Eiley deck, if you've ever seen it, where it tries to gain literal billions of life so that it can spend it on cards. Here we can't do that. So here we're really just gaining life to pad our life total and to make up from the black card draw or black effects that we have. And I'm going to say universally, I don't like that. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's meaningful. And the idea that we should be worried about the amount of life we're losing, especially with Speed Demon, which is losing us like almost at max 4 life every turn, that's fine. I love it. Don't mess with that. You're not here for a long time. You're here for a good time. So I would honestly take out almost all the life gain. I really am uninterested in a lot of it, and I don't think it's going to do much for you. I think if you had like Extenuate, that would be like the exception, but we're not even playing that, so I think it's easy to cut. I think also cards such as Kami of the Jealous Thirst, which feels somewhat like this, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I get the kind of synergy with our commander where, you know, we're ideally drawing 3 cards, which will reduce the entirety of its cost, and therefore each opponent's going to lose 2 life and gain 2 life. But that's not really meaningful. This might fall into what the deck builder was calling burn, but burn, like this kind of burn, which I consider ping, like we're doing just incremental damage at small amounts to our opponents, hoping to layer a lot of them, only works when you can layer a lot of them, and demon decks don't work that way. We're here to smash face with like 6/6s, 7/7s. We're not here to slowly ping our opponents. This is much more of an aristocrats kind of strategy. So we must also be here for the 2 life we'll be gaining, and once again, that's not good enough, so another easy cut. Also cut, of course, Veto. Liliana is getting really close here. I don't think she's going to be online very often, right? Because the majority of our creatures are much higher mana, and therefore having another creature and then getting it to die without Lily dying is pretty bad. And her other modes, let's say her other abilities, aren't particularly useful in the deck. Even this whole reanimation thing is based off CMC or mana value, therefore it's going to be clunky in a demon deck and can be cut as well. Hunted Bone Brew, same idea, just doesn't really feel like it belongs here. I think it is a bit of a clunky creature, and I would rather it just be something else. Moving down through the rest of our creatures, we get into this 5 zone that I want to talk about, and we've got about 4 creatures here. 4 creatures here, that's not too bad, that I'm not too keen on. Archpriest of Shadows is a card that every now and then I take a look at and I go, this has to be really good, and then I forget to ever play it because I really don't think it's good enough. I like this in decks that have this really high threshold of reanimation targets or reanimation effects that they already play, and a deck that is very, very combat focused. Because you need to play the Archpriest, you need to back up onto a creature, that creature has to swing and deal damage, and then you get to reanimate one creature. That's a lot of ifs that your opponent can interact with, and though I really do like the fact that even in that scenario, you get to keep Archpriest as a 4/4 with that ability, it is just a 4/4 death touch, which means it has no evasion and will be blocked forever, and in that sense, I really don't like it. I'm only like being this hard on her because just recently I considered putting her into a deck, and I was not impressed. Argentum Masticore is a card that has so much text that I'm profoundly disinterested in reading because unfortunately it's just not very good, right? It's clunky, it takes a lot of work to get it going, it's a lot of mana, and even then you are going 1-for-1 every time you use this effect, which is not very often. All of this just, don't get me wrong, the art and flavor of this card is really cool, but I don't really think it fits our theme. There's no choices for our opponents, so it's just kind of a clunky big Masticore that doesn't do much for us. The Blade Griff prototype, I like this way more. I wish it was less mana, but I do like this as a creature. I wish we had haste enablers. I guess I'm not going to tell you to cut this, but it's a little close. Clackbridge Troll, however, with haste even, I don't particularly like. So this is an interesting card, right? The idea is that your opponents, one opponent gets a bunch of goats, and then every time you go to combat, any opponent gets to sacrifice a creature of their choice. So the way this actually works, and it taps down this creature, and you get a card and you gain a life. So the way this actually works is really clunky because you don't get to target an opponent, so they have to go in turn order, and they're incentivized to not do this because it draws you a card every time you do it, whereas 8 life really isn't a bad decision, and most likely are going to politic their way out of this situation, right? Like, I guess this is the question. You have Clackbridge Troll, it goes to your combat. 2 of your opponents are just saying they're not going to be involved. One opponent turns to you and says, I'll make you a deal and give you the outcome that you desire. What actually is the outcome you desire, right? And I don't actually know, because attacking with an 8/8, it might not really be it. It might be the fact that you want them to sacrifice a creature so you draw a card, which to me is like, why not just play the Phyrexian Arena that's here on the side? Like, I'd rather just that because it's just going to be more consistent than a 5-mana 8/8 that's kind of clumsy to use. I know this one is another choice card for your opponents, but the difference is here, I really do feel like they don't have a bad choice. They have pretty direct choices, which is just to let you attack. And even if you get into a situation that you can get them to make a bad choice, you have to be very involved. There has to be a lot of politics involved. So with all that in mind, I think it's too clunky. I think it should be cut. Going through the rest, I think Indulgent Tormentor is really close as being particularly bad. I'm not a big fan. The choice, once again, isn't really that bad. I think they'll just pay 3 life every single time, unless they are a token deck, which you won't target them, but it's possible you'll have to and they'll just sack something. So I think this is too clunky for one of the choice cards, and I think I have a better one in the side. Going through sorceries, a lot of these are just fine, no problems with it. Yeheni's Expertise feels a little weird. I'd rather it just be a board clear, or I'd rather it be something to cheat into play. I don't like either side of these together. -3/-3 isn't that useful. It's fine. I recognize a lot of our creatures will live through it, but it's still not enough that I would consider to be a real board clear, and I think I'd rather it just be a board clear. Gix's Command, likewise 5 mana, feels just a little clunky. I really don't like that this is not just a straight up reanimation spell at 5 mana. I do understand that it would be really, really powerful as a card, but also I don't care. I think this is a card that has so few good options where you're just basically going to destroy each creature with power 2 or less and then force them to sacrifice their biggest creatures every single time. And I just don't think that's good enough. Once again, I'd rather just be any black board clear, which there are a lot of. Even at 5 mana, things like Crux of Fate and stuff like that are just going to do the job a little easier, and I prefer. Head games. I feel like I was just talking about head games. So I'm going to go on a different angle. I'm not going to talk about how head games isn't good this time. This time, instead, I'm going to say that head games does not give your opponent a choice, and therefore does not belong here. That's it. Nice and simple. You don't need any more conversation about it. We're going to keep going. Living Death is great. Looking at our instance, once again, it feels like we're really stressing our 3 drops from Blood Pacts to Consumed by Greed to Murder to Soul Shatter to Withering Torment. A bunch of cards that do very similar things that we can just find at 2 mana, from like Fell if you just want to destroy things, a bunch of other 2 mana removal spells, to Dismember for a 1 mana removal spell, to Sheoldred's Edict, and other such edicts at 2 mana will just do the job better than a lot of these cards. So if we were a little more open on our 3 mana slot, maybe I wouldn't mind all of these, especially Withering Torment, which you can still play. But at the moment, we are being pressured quite a bit in the deck construction, so I want to limit these kind of cards. Flare of Malice feels a little weird here because we just don't have a lot of black creatures we want to die, but it's a phenomenal card. This is such a powerful card. I played this in Modern for a bit. It was fantastic, and in Commander, it's even better, so love it. Looking at our artifacts, once again, we've got Basilisk Collar. Feels just kind of wonky here. I'd rather this just be something else. Bonder's Ornament. I assume this is because other people have Bonder's Ornament. Otherwise, this is so clunky. Even at low power decks, this isn't the kind of card I'd like you to play. It's just, it's just too much, I think, even at its best. So I leave that up to you. If everyone plays a Bonder's Ornament and they all play it every single game, then it gets way better. It doesn't. Even then, I'm like, I don't like that. So let's toss that. Decanter of Endless Water. I've talked about this before. I'll talk about it again. No maximum hand size. This goes with the Thought Vessel as well. I don't like these effects. I don't think they're good enough. I do understand that we need mana rocks in a deck like this, but I'd rather they be Felwar Stone. I'd rather they be just things that tap for black and at 2 mana, or things that tap for multiple mana at 3 mana, one of which I will suggest. But both of these cards are just not very good for what they do. This could even be Commander Sphere, a card I don't like but is better than this, and you'd be happier. I'll give you the spiel once again real fast. If you draw, you have to draw a very specific amount of cards and use all of them for no maximum hand size to matter. Because if you draw 20 cards, you're probably going to win the game, or the game's about to end. And either way, if you don't play upwards of 13 of those cards before the game ends, they might as well have been discarded out of your hand. And that's not even including the fact that, hey, you want to discard cards because Reanimate and Victimize and other cards will reanimate those demons out of your graveyard. Starting column gives you your max speed early. I do like that, no problem with this, and I really like its max speed effect. This is way better and much more of the kind of artifact that I want to see. Lux Cannon feels weird. I don't know why it's here. I don't like it. Throw it out. This is not the kind of deck for it. I don't know why I'm being so hard on this card, but I don't like it and I stand beyond that. Exquisite Blood, if we're taking out Veto, can come out. The rest is very good. Looking very, very quickly at the side, Scourge Familiar really sticks out as a card that I'd like you to put in because the ceiling of this card is insane, and it works really, really well with the cards that you have in your deck. Phyrexian Arena is close, Doom Whisperer is close, but Scourge Familiar is there. All right, let us go into my additions. What do I want to put in? So our first section is about these choices matter situation, and then we're going to get to the more boring stuff, and then finally a suggestion for a commander instead. So Archfiend of Depravity is the choice demon I really want in here the most. Archfiend of Depravity is a bit slow in the fact that it only triggers on opponent's end step, but I think it's really, really strong. One, it covers a weakness that these kind of decks tend to have, which is against decks that tend to go wide. And in those situations, you're going to need either board clears or a card like this to pressure those decks out of the game. The second thing, and this is a really, really important one, is that Archfiend of Depravity is not even against your opponents. And this is actually a good thing, because if you can slam this down and at least one of your opponents is kind of okay with it, it vastly increases its ability to stay on the battlefield, which you need it to do. If Archfiend of Depravity makes it a circle around the game, like one round goes, or one turn, one full turn goes by, you have gained so much value and you never need to worry about this creature again. You can just swing with it and just have fun because it's unlikely that it's going to keep triggering. So in a lot of ways, this card kind of self-regulates, which I really like, where, you know, it's slow, but it only really needs to trigger once per opponent. It's vulnerable, but your opponents are incentivized to keep it around if it doesn't hurt them. And it gets really, really good effects. I will note that if you are against the token player, they're going to attack all out against you when you have this Archfiend up. And that's just how it's going to be. It's fine. There's not much to be done. Otherwise, I think it's a great pressure piece and a pretty big attacker. Another really interesting creature, demon that gives choices but works kind of in the opposite, is Rock-Cursed Rakshasa. This card is really, really cool. It is, on its face, fine. A 5/5 Trample Decayed. You want to put this in the graveyard as fast as possible, so you might as well summon it, and you might as well attack with it once. But what we really want is that renew effect, where we renew a few creatures into giving them decay, right? So we renew this card, and we are targeting the strongest creatures on the board. Now, what's really kind of interesting is that you can select commanders or select creatures that are good on offense, but also very good, like have a strong ability. By giving them decayed, you give your opponents a pretty bad decision. They can keep it around, but the creature can't block anymore and it can't attack, and they'll just keep it for that passive ability. Or if this is an attacking creature, they get one more attack with it. And I think that's a really interesting situation to put your opponents in, especially Titan creatures that trigger off of attacks and ETBs. Rock Curse is this renew effect off the Rock Curse is really, really good because it gives them, it like heavily limits the amount of card advantage they're going to gain by triggering that multiple times. But also, this is just fantastic against commanders that are like attacking commanders, creatures that are goated, things like that. It's a really, really clean removal spell or a clean decision, and I like this probably the most out of most of the things I'm suggesting because it fits the deck so well. One that I think is criminally missing from this deck is Burning Rune Demon. Now, I know this is a tutor, and as we put tutors in, which I will suggest another one, don't mind me, the deck's power level will rise. I still think Burning Rune Demon is a 6-mana creature that tutors one of 2 cards out of your deck. I think it's fine, usually, at the power level it is. However, this is a phenomenal card because it gives you, it's like both a card in your hand and a card in your graveyard. Usually you don't mind which one is each. Which one goes where, because you just play around like having reanimation or 2 really good targets. And then you have a 6/6 flyer, which just does whatever you want in the meantime. I think this card is really, really strong and puts your opponents into those bad decision points while being a demon. So I think it checks all the boxes. I think it's fantastic. It's card advantage, and it's got really cool art. This is not a decision point, but this is on the, or like making your opponents make decisions, but it is on the demon side, and I think this is pretty cool. This is Demonic Covenant. It's a Kindred enchantment demon, and I don't know if it fits, but it catches my eye. The whole idea here is it gives this really, really cool line of text that says, whenever one or more demons you control attack a player, you draw cards and lose 1 life. So if you attack each of your opponents, you'll draw 3 cards, lose 3 life, because it counts each time a demon attacks a player, or a group of demons attack each player. I'm almost 100% sure that's how it works. For each player. Yeah, okay, we're good. We're good. Always good to double check. So that part is phenomenal, and I think 6 mana, draw 3 cards, lose 3 life already is good. Then you got the second half, which is at your end step, you get a 5/5 demon token, and then you mill 2. And this is the whole idea of this deck. If those 2 cards share all their card types, then you sacrifice this enchantment. How does this work? Basically, the idea is the more variety in the card types of your deck, the better this card is. Especially this deck really benefits from having cards that have 2 card types, because if you have like an enchantment creature and a creature, they don't match all card types and you get to keep this enchantment, which is really, really good. So in this deck, we have a really clean variety of cards, so I think it's good enough to work, but it might not really fit and maybe be a bit of a finisher or just like this solo card. I still wanted to suggest this. This is kind of out of place here, but I should have been later in the editions, but I do like it and I did want to mention it. All right, let's talk about non-demon cards that give choices. So Dredge the Mire. Each opponent chooses a creature card in their graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. It is pretty insane that for 4 mana you get 3 creatures that are probably good creatures because people play good cards. I've never seen this cast, and I'm getting this emotional feeling that I want to pick up this card because I want to see if it's good. Don't get me wrong, I know it might not always be good, but I'm willing to take this card with a low floor because the ceiling is very, very high. There is a version of this that was printed in Final Fantasy that makes your opponents choose cards in your graveyard, which is better, but is 7 mana. For that reason, I'm saying Dredge the Mire, but if you like that a little more, especially considering the cards in your graveyard should be better, it's probably better, but I'll leave that up to the deck builder. Then we have 2 more that are kind of similar. Sadistic Shell Game is each player picks a creature you don't control, and then you destroy the chosen creatures. What's interesting about Sadistic Shell Game is you actually choose last, and there's 2 ways this kind of falls like, or shakes out, right? Either the highest, like, the best situation is that each of your opponents pick a different creature you don't control, and then you pick a 4th random creature or that you don't control, and 5 mana you destroy 4 creatures. But there's also a scenario that each of your opponents look at each other and they say, we all pick the same creature, and that's the creature you're going to kill, right? This is a classic kind of tempt situation that could go bad. However, how Sadistic Shell Game gets around this, which I really, really like, is that it gives you the last decision. So even if your opponents all pick the same creature, you get to pick a different creature, and then it's 5 mana, destroy 2 creatures. I'm gonna be honest, that's still fine, so I really do like this. I think in the end it's going to fall down to how your play group plays, but if this destroys at least 3 creatures, you're going to be very, very happy. This means when you're ahead, this probably destroys 2 creatures, and then when you're behind or at parity, this destroys upwards of 3 creatures, which I think is very, very strong. Similarly, Call to the Void says each player secretly chooses a creature they control and a creature they don't control. Then those choices are revealed, destroy each creature chosen this way. This one is wild. I really want to play with this card because I think this is really cool, and I think this is like a perfect card for this deck. This is tough because you will lose creatures, unlike the previous one, because they can pick your creatures. And to be fair, they might be incentivized to pick your creatures, which may not be a bad thing, right? Because if they all choose your creature as the one you control, it guarantees that they're losing it guarantees that their triggers against you don't work as well, but they'll still lose creatures. This is like a huge mind games. Every player wants to pick the creature on their side of the board that opponents are going to pick, and players can then counter pick that by picking the second best card on their opponent's boards. This is a wild card. If you ever resolve this card, I'd love to hear how it goes because this looks absolutely cool. Maybe I should get a copy just to resolve it on a stream sometime and see how it goes. All right, let's get to the boring cards. Worn Power Stone is a great card that will get you the mana to go further. I like it way better than a lot of your other mana rocks should be in there. You could also play Thran Dynamo, 4 mana for 3 mana, likewise very, very strong. Dark Ritual is also criminally missing from this deck. It's very, very strong. Takes a bit of the pressure off on a lot of your 3 mana cards and lets you get ahead in a really, really nice way. A tutor card that I think should be played in here, unless you're really, really trying to keep tutors out of the deck, is Demonic Council. This art is cool. It is rad as heck, and I love it. And so I want you to play it for this alone. That being said, the Delirium aspect, as mentioned before, is pretty accessible in this deck because of the variety of cards that you have and how you can put them into the graveyard, especially if you discard at end step to maximum hand size. So with that in mind, I like this universally in the deck. I leave it up to you because of how tutors are sometimes perceived, but I do think it's really, really good. And look at that art. Look at it. It's so good. Now, we're at the point of talking about alternative commanders and finishers all at once. If I can make a suggestion, the suggestion I would make is Shieldred. All we need is mono black. It'd be nice if she's a demon, but she's as close as we're going to get. Thematically, she works really well because her ETB is a choose and sacrifice. It's an edict. And on her other side, the true scriptures, we have a choice thing right in the middle. Each opponent discards 3 cards, mills 3 cards, where your opponents have to choose what they discard. Not the biggest choice, don't get me wrong, but it does exist in there, and I wanted to mention it for flavor reasons. Practically, however, I am suggesting this because Shieldred is a phenomenal finisher. She is so, so strong. She works great at card parity because it pressures your opponents really, really well to lose each a non-token creature or planeswalker. And then the second you can activate Shieldred, which is either 10 mana in one go or 5 mana and wait, she turns into the True Scriptures, which is just insane. I will go over it once more because I do go over this card every now and then and I love it. But first, you destroy their best creatures. Second, they go down 3 cards each, mill 3 cards. You're not too worried about that. But if each opponent has 3 or more cards in hand when this triggers, you have discarded 9 cards from your opponent's total, which is just mind-blowing. And then finally, the last step is Rise of the Dark Realms, where it's just you reanimate every creature, and then you flip Shieldred back and you get to force another sack. Shieldred is insane, absolutely insane, and I have played with her enough times to get True Scriptures to 2, and then she is removed because otherwise I win the game. And you're still usually very happy with the results because you have gotten so far in card advantage. Then, if she's in your command zone, you can just cast her again and start the process. I love this card. This would be very, very cleanly my suggestion. It does boost the deck up in power level and speed demons, and the speed stuff goes away, which is a little less fun, but I did want to suggest it. Also, if you can, I really suggest this art. I only own this regular art, but this other art of Shieldred, especially the art of True Scriptures, is breathtaking. Please get it. Dominic Mayer is so talented. And we're going to be closing on a card that I'm having a hard time evaluating. This will be the final card, and then we'll say goodbye, but Noxious Vapors. Have you ever seen this card? Have you ever played this card? I really, really want to know. Please, if you made it this far into the video, and you're thinking, and you see this, tell me what you think about this card. I'm having a struggle. Noxious Vapors is 1 black sorcery. Each player reveals their hand, chooses 1 card of each color from it, then discards all other non-land cards. So, how does this work practically? Practically, this works, each opponent reveals their hand, and then whatever the color identity of their commander is, up to that amount, so let's say 3 colors 3, monocolors 1, etc., they get to keep up to that number of non-land cards, and then they keep all their lands, those cards, and they discard everything else. This is clunky, I will admit. This is a lot to do, and it's really hard to kind of see how good it is, but when it's good, it's insane, right? Like, this card, I think, easily discards 2 to 3 cards from each opponent's hand, if not more. And it punishes your opponents who are in lower colors, or even if they are in lower colors, ones that are very monocolor heavy. So the thing with multicolored cards is that if you have like a green-black card like Abrupt Decay, this doesn't count which colors it is, it just counts one of those colors. So it slots in one of those 2 colors, which makes it better. But if you have, an opponent that's green-black but mostly green, it means they're most likely discarding more cards. This also gives you free information that everyone's hands are open. I don't know. There is something to note that in a mono black deck, you are going to be suffering the most from this, but to that degree I say, yeah, but like Speed Demon, if you keep it, or other cards in your deck will get you those cards back really, really quickly, so you don't really mind. I have no idea if this is good. I am unsure, so if you see this, let me know if you played it, let me know what you think. And that's the end of our video. Thank you so much for sending this deck. It is so much fun. It's got a bunch of cards I've always wanted to play, and it is a demon deck that really catches a lot of flavor wins that I do like. So I hope this video was helpful. Good luck and happy deck building. Thank you so much for watching. This video is brought to you by viewers like you and people on my Patreon. If you'd like to send me another draft of this deck, or any deck, there is a link in the video description down below. And if you'd like to make your deck one of my donation decks I work on, there's a link there too. Finally, if you'd like to like, comment, subscribe, I would be very appreciative. It helps the channel quite a bit. Thank you and good luck in brewing and building.